Welcome to another episode of Finding Freedom. In this episode, we're going to talk about the difference between attraction and love so that you can find the love that's supposed to be free. So let's get into it. Attraction is like when you go to a bar. Let's say you go to church, right? I went to this church around here and I thought I saw this chick and she looked like Lotto for a second. If you know the rapper or actress name Lotto or whatever, she sings Sunday Service. I could have sworn I saw her at Sunday Service, which was freaking hilarious because there's a lyric she says is like, oh, if you believe in Jesus, I got some ice water for you, which is like a mental health quote unquote thing that they like to do. Because when you go to mental health units, they feed you ice water to cool down your internal temperature. However, you could simply change your internal temperature by holding a cup of ice water or a cup of hot water. It's very complex, the things that I'm about to say. I'm stealing that line from Tony Robbins. However, what's very interesting is attraction is like when they say light up the eyes, that you're going to have a flexion point in the eyes. Your eyes or eyebrows will flex a little bit. You go, whoa, right? And then, you see this with kids when they see a magic trick. They say, how did you do that? Whoa, that was so awesome. I want more. I want to see it again, so on and so forth, etc. Now, when it comes to things like this is something that you have to understand that you can't take away. The reason why is because just like the spirit of Christmas, you want to maintain that for as long as possible. That's the innocence of the virgin mind, right? Not the virgin body, the virgin mind. Think about it for a second, all right? So the virgin mind is told one thing, and hopefully it stays and walks the path correctly, even if it swivels every once in a while, right? However, when it gets too off the beaten path, you have to kindly reinforce things, not overly do it or force it or try to be killing them with kindness, as they say down here in the South when they say, oh, bless your heart, if you know what I mean. So they're like, oh, he's so sweet. I think he goes to the Billy Graham Museum and everything. Oh, man. And I could say, I've been there once. And I also could probably tell you the definition of people, because the Pope is supposed to look after the people that believe in L, and all those letters happen to be in people, because you are a human and we are people, right? So if you believe in Christianity, by all means, take that as a grain of salt. Now, I always look at things from different perspectives. If you haven't caught Class, then you're not going to understand the things that I'm about to go into. But please check out Class, because the difference between attraction and love is literally quite down to, you can see a beautiful piece of artwork like the Mona Lisa and wonder why she's smiling and wonder why it's so valuable and all these things, but you can't afford it. So you're going to do a lot of things to either try to afford it, or you're going to be, or I should say, too stupid to quit. And then, of course, from there, you're going to try to sacrifice so much. And then you get the thing and you realize, was it that valuable? Was it all worth it in the long run? Because as Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back. And the reason why I went this way than that way is because people read differently depending on where they are in the world. For instance, in some countries they read vertically, if you're proficient at that. Some places they read from right to left instead of left to right. Sounds backwards, I know, but it's the truth. Now, when it comes to love is something that's different. Love is something that you can't really explain it. It's like buying an iPhone or buying a pair of Nikes, right? You don't know why, you just do it, right? They say, how do they say it? Don't think, just do, right? Because Nike says just do it. Well, why, right? Why get the Nikes when you could go to Walmart or Target to get something that's cheaper? Why get the iPhone when you could go to Walmart and get an Android that's cheaper, or a Google phone, or whatever the case may be, right? Because it's the thing, the attraction that they build around it. Now, when you fall in love comes with breaking the kinesthetic barrier, right? Kinetic touch, right? I used to wear a different ring. It was magnetic. It's called a PK ring. It was black like this one. It was where I talked about in one of the episodes of Finding Freedom, interpersonal communication. But it was also a good indicator to tell me if anybody handed me fake money, because money doesn't stick to magnets, if that makes sense. So if I were to drop something by accident and it stuck to my hand, I would say, oh, this is counterfeit. Look at that. And it would be very interesting, because where I grew up, people would do stuff like that all the time, right? And I learned how to protect myself, because I learned having nothing is not the best thing in the world, but having friends, family, and community is everything, because that's what gets you eventually to the top. Now, when it comes to understanding attraction, think of it like a dance circle, right? I used to break dance back in the day. So like if somebody was getting down, boom, boom, and they were getting down, so on and so forth in the cipher, right? And something about you, if you're a dancer, you would want to jump in. Or if you're a former military and you see something going on in a movie and you're like, oh, this isn't right at all. They don't do stuff like that. They don't talk like that. They don't do this like that. And it's something inside of you. You're in love with that thing, right? That's different than attraction. Attraction says, I want that thing. Love says, I need that thing, right? This is the difference, right? Because love is kind of addicting, right? And this is because of the chemicals that gets released in the body when you feel love. Because when you get what you need, not what you want that you didn't want to begin with, you don't want it. But once you get what you need, like let's say you got a grandbaby or you got your grandbaby gifts for Christmas, so on and so forth, etc. You wanted them, you got them. So are you happy with them? Right? Because sometimes people say, oh, why do I got to do this for? Well, because if you look at, I'm going to leave this for the rest of class, lesson 16, the art of paying it forward, or the logic of paying it forward. I'm trying to play with the titles here. But if you look at the medical symbol, right, it has the two spiraling snakes and then the pole in the middle. Well, if you were to flip that upside down and draw a circle around it, it looks like the Deathly Hallows. Or if you turn it upside down, take away the circle, it looks like a Christmas tree. Why is that? Maybe because one day somebody would have to remind them that the thing that matters the most is the very thing that they're supposed to be taking care of, because they're people just like you. Just like when you're in love and you say you're attracted to something and you want to be with it, but then you don't take care of it, and then it spoils. And the spoils, well, go to those who are ever the victor. Right? The spoils of war, all's fair in love and war. So you have to understand what's going on in society today and understand the terminology, phrases, entendres, metaphors, and everything else, because not everybody could speak in haiku, which is another form of poetry. If you ever studied or seen Dead Poet Society or read To Kill a Mockingbird, you remember Atticus Finch. They wanted to condemn and, charge somebody, and he kept questioning. He kept pushing the boundary. And then they're like, oh, but he had a knife. He goes, and he takes out a switchblade. He throws it on the table. He goes, yeah, I have one too. And that doesn't mean anything. And so you have to understand the difference between attraction and love. Just because you're attracted to something doesn't mean you love it. And just because you want something doesn't mean you need it, right? This is the thing about addiction as well. Just because you think you want it doesn't mean you need it, because you didn't need it before, up until you got introduced to it. So think about those things and think about the differences between attraction and love. Remember, love is something that you need that releases chemicals, and it can be addicting, especially if it's good for you and you get positive reinforcement every single time. But you're going to have to learn how to read in between, or see in between, lesson 3 of class, see in between, right, to make sure that it's real love. And then, of course, attraction is, did this person just want to be with me for benefits, or because they were looking for an opportunity or whatever to see if they could get something from me, and then they don't want me anymore, and now I feel like crap, so on and so forth later on. But if you have love in your life, then love will always be there, and you'll find a way to communicate. Just don't lie about it. So take this as a grain of salt or grain of sand, however they say it. This has been another episode of Finding Freedom, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Take care. Peace. Mike City out.